Hello, Merriment makers. Welcome to Operation Merriment, mission number 57. Lyndon B. Johnson said that books and ideas are the most effective weapons against intolerance and ignorance. And someone has yet to say it better. April is a big month for books and library celebrations. There's School Library Media Month, Library Snapshot Month, Library Week, Library Preservation Week, Library Workers Day, Library Outreach Day, Take Action for Libraries Day, Celebrate Teen Literature Day, Children's Book Day, Book and Copyright Day, Dictionary Day, Bookmobile Day, Independent Bookstore Day, and Book Night. My goodness. So why all this hubbub about libraries? Because they're kind of the best. And books. I grew up in a library, and I mean that almost as literally as I can say it. If I wasn't being babysat at my grandparents', I was at work with my dad. And I know everything there is to know about, at least Anne Arundel County public library systems, and the people who worked there in the 90s, way too much. I ran the summer reading program desk as young as I can remember, definitely before it was legally allowed. I shelved books as young as I can remember. I figured out how to run and operate the very basic computer system. And I would type in my friends' names and make sure their addresses matched up. And I would see if they had any fines, and I would clear them out. I would come into school the following week and I would tell them, hey, you no longer have any fines. You don't have to worry about that $2.16. You could safely come back to the library at your local branch. And I would do my best to wink at them like I was some sort of vigilante book Batman, and no one ever knew what I was talking about. And that was also probably very illegal. I loved reading. I started reading when I was 4 years old, which I think is pretty young. I remember everyone comparing me to my grandma. I remember my grandma telling me that she grew up during the Depression and how she would get in trouble for staying up late at night with a flashlight under her bed, under her blanket to read, which later I remember thinking how crazy it was when I saw her house and she had 11 brothers and sisters, and I don't really understand how they slept in such a small house. I remember the first time I learned that there were some books you weren't allowed to read. I remember the first time I learned that it was illegal for some people to learn how to read or read in general. I remember the first time I learned that some people just didn't know how to read. Each of those times were significant to me, and they all broke my heart. The only thing I liked to do more than read was write. But to be unable, not allowed, or limited to do those things, I didn't get it. Why? I was in a castle of books every day. Didn't everybody have that? And they did not. And they still don't. April 24th is Right to Read Day, and it is pretty new. It is intended to celebrate books that are banned. But I want to take it a step further and include the right to read for everyone for all reasons. There should be no reason for anyone to be denied the experience to read if they are physically able to read. Not only is it ultimately necessary for our society, but it's liberating. Books represent knowledge, the expansion of knowledge. And when people have access to knowledge, we expand our beliefs. When our beliefs expand, we can quite literally start a revolution. So the history of banning books is a practice thousands of years old, and it is done out of a threat and fear. If we, the people, learn more, we can take back control, not just of governments, but of our own sovereignty. And that is the scariest thing of all to people who profit off of it. So today I want to challenge you to expand your knowledge. to heighten your awareness, and to simply be around books because you can. And to spread some joy and reward someone else who is too. Here's some more trivia about literacy, books, banned books. There are currently 1,586 books that are banned or restricted in places across the United States. The majority of the books that are banned have to do with race, gender, or sexual identity, meaning LGBTQIA+. 16% of those books being restricted are history books or biographies, including about Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Malala. The 5 states with the most banned books, the most amount of banned books, are in order: Texas by far, then Florida, then Pennsylvania, then Tennessee, and then Oklahoma. This impacts a combined total of 2 million students in 2,899 schools in the United States. And we're just talking about the United States right now, but there are other countries that practice book banning, like China, Hong Kong, Russia, Hungary, Bangladesh, Egypt, North Korea, and more. 14% of the entire adult population in the United States are considered illiterate. And 54% of adults in the United States have a literacy rate of below a 6th grade reading level. This, in comparison to other countries, most developed countries have a 99% literacy rate. This is staggeringly low. There are 773 million adults in the world who are illiterate, and most of them are women. So that's about 10% of the world. So if we're just looking at the United States in comparison to the whole world, we have a much higher illiteracy rate in the United States than the rest of the world does overall. And if you can't read between the lines, pun intended, this is due to trickle-down continuation effects from slavery and institutionalized racism. The most banned book in history, we think, it's really hard to tell because it just is. When something is, sold, it's a little easier to tell. But when things are banned, it's the statistics are a little more difficult. But across the globe, in terms of everywhere, all countries, and throughout history, the most banned book is believed to be Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz. It's pretty haunting, and there's actually a film that I don't know if it's actually been put out, but Guillermo del Toro is doing it. I know that this is not deeply uplifting or celebrating in the good news way that we think of in general with Operation Merriment. And sometimes it has to be like this because it just does. It really does. We cannot be blind to everything. And in order for us to celebrate, we need to have perspective, and we have to let rising tides lift all ships. So the right to read and freedom means that we incorporate others into freedom. Others cannot be free until we all are. So we are celebrating today by encouraging others to read and acknowledging our freedom to be able to do so. I'm giving you a tutorial on just leaving a bookmark in a book at a library, but I also have a bunch of other ways for you to celebrate banned books and literacy today. So if you haven't already, get your printable, and we're going to just share a bookmark If you got the original printable, it's been resized and it's no longer available, but this is how big they were originally. So if you snag this, you're welcome. You have a giant bookmark. But if not, they have been resized and they are normal now. So print these out. There's 10 different designs for you to choose from, and you can print out as many as you like and print these out while I'm talking now. And you also want to just grab scissors to cut them out and a pen or markers for you to draw on the back. And obviously you can always make your own design if you don't have a printer or choose to not. So here are some other elaborate bonus alternative ideas for how to celebrate the Right to Read Day. There's a video on the history of banning books. There's a timeline for book banning and burning. There is the history, including present day, of book banning. There's the 10 most challenged books of 2022. And yes, it is still going on. I don't want you to think that, we were just burning and banning The Catcher in the Rye and the Bible, and now that's good and done. It's not like, it's like everything. Everything is constantly being challenged. Everything is constantly in flux. We didn't just have the civil rights movement and now racism is done, right? It's constantly being challenged. Most things are, when there's a value system in place. And yeah, so you can check out the top most challenged books of 2022 and the top 10 books from each year from 2021 back to 2001. And then it kind of gets a little murky from there because we weren't really keeping statistics in that same way from the American Library Association. But you can also check out the list of classic banned books, and that's where we get, Catcher in the Rye, and God, so many books like To Kill a Mockingbird and Grapes of Wrath, and gosh, the kinds of books that I was supposed to read in school, like the kinds of things that we kind of use throughout society as examples of great American literature. The Great Gatsby, The Color Purple, The Lord of the Flies, 1984, Of Mice and Men, Catch-22, Animal Farm, Gone with the Wind. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So many things that have been turned into adaptations of movies and musicals and plays. A Clockwork Orange, Sophie's Choice. The things that we ban are things that make us think, You can also read a banned book. You can see how you can get involved and active against book banning, because this is really a call to action for us. There's a really excellent set of tools and resources that are available to you from the American Library Association and all of the activists that are really helpful for banning books or being against banning books. So there's toolkits for how to talk about banned books. There's an FAQ, how to find and write to your local congressman, how to report censorship. There's how to make a plan for testifying at a local board meeting, both at a library and school. There's just an amazing 10-step guide for how to advocate for the Right to Read Day. There's also a really cool thing that's happening tomorrow. Judy Blume is one of the great banned authors of our time, and she's still alive, and she's going to be doing a conversation event tomorrow for the Right to Read Day, and it's free, it's online, and you can just watch Judy Blume live, which is really cool. You can read about the history of anti-literacy laws in the US when I'm trying to say, that people were literally not allowed to read in the United States. That is exactly what I'm trying to discuss with you right now. And you can also read about the continuing challenge to defeat illiteracy today. You can refer someone to, volunteer for, or donate to Project Read, which is for people age 16 and over who read and or write below a 7th grade level. You can become a volunteer for pro-literacy. You can read some library trivia. You can check out how the book bans in America are actually rising. You can watch video footage of modern day book burnings that are actually taking place still. You can read literacy statistics for the United States. You can read a book to a child. You can take advantages of all the services of a library. You can do something nice for a librarian. You can do a library scavenger hunt. You can support a marginalized writer. You can gift a banned book. You can attend a banned book protest. You can write a letter to a principal, a library board, a congressman. You can make a social media post about banned books. You can ask your local library to make a banned book display. I texted my dad the other night and reminded him to do that. You can get some free banned book downloads and you can just read. I know that the first half of this list seems really intense and very scientific, very research-based, very advocacy, activism oriented, and maybe even just not fun. And maybe the second half feels a little more chill or, fun. I don't know. I see that the two sides of this that feel different. I do. I notice that the energy shifts with reading a book to a child and do something nice for a librarian and posting online versus reading research and getting involved and sending letters. I see the difference in energy there. I really do. And I also want to say that there are two sides of the same coin. And we need logic and emotion. We need understanding and compassion. We need the research with the feeling. We need both. And we need to use the education that we have to inform why we care. So don't get buried in news ever. We can't become overwhelmed by bad news and things that make us feel overwhelmed and sad and upset in any way. This is about creating good news. However, good news and everything is a spectrum, right? So when you're creating good news, it's in response to what we believe and understand and feel is sad or bad or upset news. And I want you to not ever fully bury your head in the sand. You do everything you have to do for your mental health. But I do want to take moments to remind you that this is not all in black and white photos, and those black and white photos were not very long ago. And instead, it's also happening now. And we are all very lucky everywhere we are. So use your luckiness and your privilege to advocate for freedom and safety and joy for everyone. Because once we feel that, we can all feel good, and then we can all do good. And the more we have of both of those, the better the world is everywhere, in micro moments and macro moments. So really all you're doing today is picking one of your bookmarks and pick as many as you want. You can do all 10, you can print as many as you like. And I want you to write something nice on the back. You could write a quote, you could write, "Have a nice day." You could draw a picture. You could write a list of your favorite banned books. You could say, "Thank you for reading." You could say, "I appreciate you." You could say, "Happy Right to Read Day." You could make a list of the things you like about a book and find it at the library. And then I want you to go to the library, regardless of what you write. And I want you to find a book on the shelf, and I want you to put it inside the book, and I want you to shut it. It can be on the first page. It can be somewhere in the middle. You can even have it kind of hanging out at the top. Someone can see it and they're even more drawn to it. Or you can have it be a total secret. But either way, there's joy inside. There's extra joy. And if you do want to make sure that that book is there, or you can wait until you get to the library and be inspired to write it there. But part of this is going to explore a place where books are. You could do it at a bookstore as well, but I think being in a library, especially during this month of April, or just in general, to be appreciative of all of the free resources that are available for people who need them. So many different availabilities, resources for free. And if you are at a bookstore, you might not need them as much. So having access to the library is a blessing. So I want you to really consider getting to a library. And usually they're along local transit. They consider that. So write something nice on a bookmark, put it in the book, and you can use that book as inspiration for what to write. Or you know what? Just put the bookmark in there. And you could even put your name, your phone number, your Instagram handle, or hashtag Operation Merriment so they can find you and take a picture and keep that circle going. But that's it. And then you have those 30 other ways to celebrate, educate yourself, and take a picture, share it with us. Have a good day and tell other people what you learned about this week. And tag me at Merriment Maker on Instagram or hashtag Merriment Making, and I'll reshare it. I love you. Remember, you have to feel good to do good. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you next week.